What if the Roman Empire, especially its powerful eastern half, had never collapsed? Just imagine a world where Constantinople stayed unconquered and Rome still cast its colossal shadow over the Mediterranean. This idea sparks endless debates, rumors, and what-if scenarios among historians and fans alike, because if Rome had endured, our world might look shockingly different. The first big turning point came with the plague of Justinian. Official accounts say it cut the empire in half, literally halving the military, shattering cities, and weakening the East right after it had almost reclaimed Italy. But modern controversies hint that the plague alone may not have been the empire's doom. Internal struggles, fragile economies, and strategic blunders might have been just as lethal. Without that devastating epidemic, the Eastern Romans could have swept through Italy, reclaimed old provinces, and even challenged the barbarian kingdoms in Gaul or Hispania far more aggressively. Then came the infamous rise of Emperor Focas, whose coup followed the brutal execution of Emperor Maurice. It's been whispered that powerful factions in Constantinople supported this bloody takeover for personal gain, unknowingly pushing the empire toward greater disaster. While some see Focas as a vicious tyrant, others argue he became a scapegoat for deeper, long-brewing problems. Whatever the truth, his reign unleashed internal discord and distracted the empire from looming threats. But what if a stable Eastern Rome sidestepped that crisis altogether? In an alternate reality, the empire might have remained a dominant Mediterranean force, preventing the rise of rival powers before they ever gained traction. Imagine a world without the massive fractures of the Middle Ages, no repeated invasions, no unstoppable new faiths toppling ancient capitals. Some scholars now suggest that with the right leadership, the Eastern Roman Empire could have kept its borders secure and even outlasted its old adversaries. Of course, a unified empire is never guaranteed. Even the mightiest kingdoms can tear themselves apart from within. Religious schisms, power grabs by ambitious generals, or resentment in newly reconquered provinces could still spawn fresh conflicts. We might have seen an empire that occasionally fractured into offshoots, each still Roman at heart, but competing for trade, territory, and prestige. This rivalry might even have ignited an alternate age of discovery, with Roman explorers sailing to unknown shores. Yet another striking possibility emerges if the empire had simply stayed strong enough to overshadow everyone else. Constantinople, with its legendary walls and unparalleled wealth, could have led a new wave of global exploration. Think of entire regions in Africa or the Americas speaking a form of Greek, their culture shaped by centuries of Roman governance. Instead of the Renaissance blossoming in Florence or Venice, maybe it would have flourished under the imperial patrons of a never-fallen Byzantium. In the end, it's clear that a surviving Eastern Roman Empire would have forever altered Europe's trajectory. Without that infamous plague, without disastrous emperors, and without crippling wars, the empire might have reached into modern times with unstoppable influence. Would our languages, religions, or even technologies exist in the same way they do now? Or would we live in a world still under the banner of Rome, walking streets lined with ancient monuments preserved through centuries of peace? This single twist in the timeline leads to countless questions. And that, perhaps, is the most fascinating part. We'll never truly know the limits of an empire that refused to fall. But the very thought stirs our imagination and reminds us how fragile history can be. One missed plague, one avoided coup, and the map of our world could have looked unrecognizable.